Haribol, Namaste, Krishna, welcome. Welcome to my Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 5, Text 13 class. So we'll just chant for a bit. Mao Vishnu Padaya Sapastaya Shimate Sira Sarupana Amahasatinavine Mao Vishnu Padaya Sapastaya Bhutale Shimate Sira Sarupana Padaya Shampastaya Bhutale Shrimate Sira Sarupananda Amamazutinamine Namo Sira Sarupananda Amahansanamine Karuna Sarupaya Parakashina Pasayate Namo Sira Sarupananda Amahansanamine Karuna Sarupaya Radhakrishna Pasayate Namo Sira Sarupananda Amahansanamine Karuna Sarupaya Radhakrishna Pasayate Shri Sati Deva Gauravani Pracharini Devasesha Sunyavadi Askachari Satarine Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Pracharini Devasesha Sunyavadi Askachari Satarine Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Pracharini Devasesha Sunyavadi Askachari Satarine Ajashi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Rasari Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Ajashi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Rasari Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Ajashi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Rasari Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Rasari Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Rasari Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Nityananda, Nityananda, Gauranga, Gauranga, 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 Radha Krishna Vrindavan, 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 Radha Krishna Vrindavan. Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajikasatara Satta Shishima Jagakuru Siddhasurupananda Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajikasatara Satta Shishima His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Gaura Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Asadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Sakol Ki Jai. Nitai Goswami Mission Ki Jai. Navadvita Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Vrindavanam Ki Jai. Mathuradam Ki Jai. Mayapodam Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to some devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to some devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to some devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga. Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Amagina Timarandasya Gana Gana Salakaya Chaksurun Militanyena Tajmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Statpitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Suta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanshakapa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanan Pavenbhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. For speaking, first I offer my humble obeisances at the lotus feet of my spiritual master, Jagakuru Siddhaswarupananda Srila Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada is the mercy manifestation of Lord Chaitanya. He is very dear to Radha and Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are like wish-fulfilling trees, able to fulfill all the desires of the fallen living entities, and are full of compassion upon them. Haribol, namaste. Welcome. Thanks for watching. I hope you're all well. And happy in your service to our spiritual master and to Krishna. So we're continuing to study the words of Krishna in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the beautiful song of Sri Bhagavan, the Supreme Person, who's full of all opulences. So last week, was Lord Ramachandra's appearance day, and I mentioned one of the verses in Bhagavad Gita where there's a connection between Bhagavad Gita and the Ramayana, and that was in text chapter 3, text 20, where Krishna said, "Kings such as Janaka attained perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties." So this is Janaka Maharaj. He's the father of Sita, who's also known as Janaki, which means the daughter of Janaka. And so we shared a story about Janaka Maharaj, the sword of death, the sword dangling overhead. But there's a couple of other places in Bhagavad Gita where there's a connection with the Ramayana, or the devotees of Krishna who form part of the Ramayana. So in chapter 1, text 20, it says, Kapi Dwajaha. So at that time Arjuna, the son of Pandu, seated in a chariot bearing the flag marked with Hanuman, took up his bow and prepared to shoot his arrows. So Hanuman, of course, is the devotee who's most referred to as an example of dasya, servanthood. He's the perfect servant of Lord Rama and Sita Devi. And I think I mentioned last week, like he pulled his heart open and there was Sita Rama in his heart. So anyway, so Arjuna's chariot was marked with the flag of Hanuman. And in the Mahabharata, somewhere in the Mahabharata is a story where Hanuman actually jumped down from the flag and engaged in the battle of Kurukshetra at a particular dire moment. I was unable to find the actual reference to that. And so this Hanuman being on Arjuna's flag is seen as a sign of great auspiciousness, because Hanuman, of course, was successful in first of all in finding Sita, right? When Sita was kidnapped by Ravana and taken to Lanka, everyone. Anyway, long story, but everyone, all the monkeys and servants of Lord Rama were looking for Sita. They went north, south, east, west. Hanuman was in the southern party, and they came to the shore, and Hanuman had to he'd forgotten that he had all these mystic superpowers. For some reason, he'd forgotten it. Some sage he was a mischief maker when Hanuman was young, and so some sage sort of cursed him to forget his powers so he wouldn't cause trouble with them until a certain time in the future when he needed them. So then, he needed to jump across the sea from the tip of southern India over to Lanka. And then he remembered his superpowers, so he was able to jump over to Lanka. And there, after several adventures, he was able to find Sita in the garden, and he was able to, convince her that he was coming from Lord Rama, and was able to get her to take confidence in him, and he was able to speak with her and so on. So anyways, so Hanuman was successful in finding Sita, which is an amazing accomplishment. And Hanuman was also successful at different stages in the warfare in Lanka, when when Lord Rama and Lakshmana were stunned and injured during the battle. Hanuman was sent to get some particular herbs, so that were needed to cure them. And so he goes looking for the herbs. He can't, anyway, different adventures along the way, different things happen to prevent him from getting there. Anyway, so he finally gets there. He's looking for the herbs, can't find the herbs, so he just brings the whole mountain. He brings the whole mountain back to Lanka to rejuvenate his lords, Lord Rama and Lakshman. And so actually when Hanuman was, after he saw Sita, he caused trouble so that so that Ravana's soldiers would know he was there, and after, defeating a bunch of them, he allowed himself to be captured because he wanted to assess the strength of Ravana and find out more about him. So anyway, so then they bound Hanuman up, and then they set his tail on fire as like a punishment. Ravana was going to let him go, but he wanted to set his tail on fire. So then Hanuman's going through all of Lanka, setting the city on fire. And so anyway, so Hanuman was very victorious, and it was seen as a sign of great auspiciousness that at the beginning of the Battle of Kurukshetra, that it's mentioned here, that in the chariot marked with the flag of Hanuman. So this is like, now of course this is Sanjaya is speaking to Maharaj Dhritarashtra, and he's conveying, this thing. This is following the blowing of the conch shells, when Krishna and Arjuna's conch shells are described as transcendental, whereas no one else's conch shells were. So this was an auspicious sign that the Pandavas were going to win, and so Dhritarashtra's sons, headed by Duryodhana, were going to lose. And then the second sign of auspiciousness for the victory of the Pandavas and Arjuna is that his chariot is marked with the flag of Hanuman. So then also, and this one is not quite so distinctive, but this is in chapter 10, text 31. After Arjuna has asked Krishna to show him, please tell me in detail of your divine opulences by which you pervade all these worlds. O Krishna, O Supreme Mystic, how shall I constantly think of you? And how shall I know you? In what various forms are you to be remembered? O Supreme Personality of Godhead. O Janardana, please describe in detail the mystic power of your opulences. I am never satiated in hearing about you, for the more I hear, the more I want to taste the nectar of your words. Of course, this is Arjuna's love for Krishna is manifesting here or being demonstrated. that the devotee is never satiated in hearing about Krishna. Right? Normally if we become satiated. If we eat a lot, we get full. If we drink a lot, we get full. If we watch something or hear about something continuously, we get sick of it. We hear some rock song, we get sick of it. So we get satiated. I've had enough. Stop it. Right? The devotee is never satiated hearing about Krishna and his pastimes. Krishna is ever fresh. He's like a Navayavanam. Yavanam means young boy, right? Or youth. And Nava is new, ever fresh. So Krishna is ever fresh, all attractive. Krishna means all attractive. And not that it, as Prabhupada once made the point, it's not that the words just mean all attractive. It's like, no, Krishna is all attractive. The sound, Krishna, is a transcendental sound, is all attractive. And so anyway, Arjuna says here, I'm never satiated in hearing about you, for the more I hear, the more I want to taste the nectar of your words. So of course Bhagavad Gita is very, very philosophical. It's a philosophical work. In some stages, sections, it's very Upanishadic, or very, full of jnana and sankhya. Jnana, knowledge, sankhya, analysis. It can be a little bit heavy going in places. But here Arjuna is saying that Krishna's words are like nectar. So whatever Krishna says, it's just nectarine. And of course, we can get a bit more of appreciation for the nectarine quality of Krishna's words when, if we're able to read and recite the Sanskrit, because it's poetry, right? So it's more attractive. But the English, of course, non-different. The English, of course, is very attractive also. And it's nectarine to hear it. So you can imagine Arjuna is on the battlefield listening to Krishna speak. He's just like, wow, this is just awesome, So like when we read Bhagavad Gita and study Bhagavad Gita, it's like just hearing Krishna's words. It's just like hearing the words of our spiritual master. It opens our darkened eyes. It gives us jnana chaksusa, eyes of knowledge with which to understand who we are, why am I here, and what is the purpose of life. This is the verse sutra of Vedanta Sutra. Om Athato Brahma Jignasa. Athato, now. Brahma, transcendental knowledge or truth, spiritual knowledge. Jignasa, inquiry. So now is the time to inquire into the absolute truth. So anyway, Krishna is giving us the absolute truth. Right? Arjuna has inquired, please tell me what is most auspicious for me, what should I do? And Krishna is now speaking and giving the absolute truth. So anyway, so these words of Krishna are nectarine, and we can never be satiated hearing about them. So anyway, Krishna then says, yes, I would tell you of my splendorous manifestations, but only of those which are prominent, O Arjuna, for my opulence is limitless. And so then Krishna goes on to describe different opulences of his. And he says in text 31, of the wielders of weapons, I am Rama. So, most often this text, Rama, is taken to refer to Parashurama, the son of Jamadagni, who slayed the Kshatriyas 21 times. Right? The Kshatriya dynasty is 21 times. And he's a wielder of an axe. And, very, very powerful. Right? But actually in the Ramayana it's described at the end of the Balyakanda, how Rama defeated Parashuram. And Rama has all kinds of wonderful weapons, that he used in his different pastimes. From his spiritual master Vishvamitra gave him all kinds, and Lakshmana as well, all kinds of wonderful weapons. And so he has many different weapons, and that he wielded against in his different fights with the Rakshasas, and then in the ultimate battle with Ravana. So this verse can also be taken as referring to Lord Rama. So anyway, that was I just felt I would complete the thought that I just discussed or brought up last week about Janaka Maharaj and the connection between the Mahabharata. Of course, Bhagavad Gita is a part of the Mahabharata, and the Ramayana. And in fact, this is one of the wonderful things of the Vedic literatures. The Ramayana is a much older scripture. Itihasa, it's a history written by Valmiki or composed by Valmiki. And but in the Mahabharata, in the Vedas, and the Puranas, which are just like super extensive works. Once you add all the Puranas and the Vedas and the Itihasas together, it's like massive. Many of the pastimes and stories are retold. They're included within these different literatures. So anyways, we're continuing, coming back to where we're up to in Bhagavad Gita. We're talking about the three doers. So we're into a new section. So first section of chapter 5 was work and devotion is better than renunciation or work, where Krishna described that karma yoga is superior to sankhya or meditation and renunciation, sannyas. This was in response to Arjuna once again asking, well, Krishna, what do you want me to do? Right? Do you want me to fight or not fight? He's confused. Because every now and again, Krishna tells, like in chapter 2, text 37 and 38, Krishna tells Arjuna to fight. But then after that, from 239 through to the end of chapter 2, Krishna's not talking about fighting. He mentions occasionally you should perform your duty, but he's not directly telling Arjuna to fight, and he's talking about topics like samadhi and controlling lust and desires and attaining shanti or peace and Brahma Nirvanam, right? Attaining Brahman is like, so Arjuna is kind of wondering, well, what, Krishna, I'm confused. Do you want me to fight or not? What's the story here, right? So I think Krishna answers and describes that, yes, I want you to fight. And then even in, I think in three it's quite a nice verse actually, because Krishna tells Arjuna to therefore, this is text 30. Therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me, with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, and with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. Fight. So he's telling Arjuna, fight. Right? But then again, from this verse on and through chapter 4, Krishna's not telling Arjuna to fight. Again, he's talking about performing duty, he's talking about attaining knowledge, being situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge and passing over the ocean of material suffering, and so on and so forth, and different aspects of jnana, that you'll know that I'm in all beings, but all beings are in me, but I'm not in all beings, something like that, this text 35, describing transcendental knowledge. And so Arjuna is again confused. Okay, well, Krishna, I'm confused again. I still haven't got it. What do you want me to do? You want me to fight, or are you saying that I should engage in meditation and attaining study and attaining transcendental knowledge? So anyway, I've spoken about this plenty over the last several weeks or several months. So then the second section was about working with attachment. And here, Krishna is describing Nishkama Kama Yoga, right? Sorry, working without attachment, not working with attachment. I got that wrong. Nishkama Kama Yoga. Working without attachment. So without attachment to the fruits of the results. Just working in a mood of detachment. I'm doing this because this is my duty, it's the right thing to do. So I'm performing my activities according to my position in life, my position with the Varnashram Dharma system. This is my Swadharma, and it's also my nature. Krishna is describing that it's a person's nature, right? And what will repression accomplish? Trying to repress our nature, and so, this is Karma Yoga, working without attachment to the results. Now, every now and again, and we've talked about this several times, because Krishna talks sort of about working without attachment to the results, and so this is Karma Yoga. But every now and again, Krishna brings up, just as in the verse I read there, therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me. This is chapter 3, text 30. So he's saying it's not just about non-attachment to the results, but it's surrendering the results of your works unto me. Or in chapter 9, Krishna says, Yat karoshi yadashnasi yujshahosi dadasi yat tapasyasi kanteya tat kuruswa marapanam. All that you do, all that you eat, and all that you offer and give away, do that as an offering for me. Right? So do everything you're doing in connection with Krishna. It's not enough to just be like detached. This detachment is helpful, right? To be unattached to the results. This is like beneficial. It's part of the yoga path, right? It helps one to realize Atma Tattva, the truth of the soul, that I'm not this body. I'm completely apart and distinct from this body. In fact, in the verse we're going to describe tonight, this is like, as Krishna's describing it, as a city of 9 gates, right? It's like, but that we're separate and apart from this body. So anyway, now we're moving on to this new section. Last week, Krishna said, the steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the results of all activities to me. So here again we have, Krishna saying that one should offer the results of one's activities to him. Yukta, one in yoga. So anyway, the steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the result of all activities to me. Whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled. So last week we were talking about the entanglement of the soul due to his desires, his past actions. It binds him to the body and to this world. So now we move on to a new section. It's about the 3 doers. And so this is very much about, well, who is the doer? right? Because Krishna described in texts 8 to 9, a person in the divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping and breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, opening or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects, that he is aloof from them. So he actually does nothing at all. So then there's sort of like, okay, well, if the spirit soul's doing nothing at all, well, who's the actual doer? Who's the doer? This is kind of like, I'll talk more about it in a moment. So I'll read the verse. When the embodied, this is text 13, tonight's verse. When the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done. Savakamani manasa sanyasha ste shukambasi navadware pure dehi naiva kavanakarayan. Savakamani manasa sanyasa ste sukambasi navadware pure dehi naiva kavam nakarayan. So sava is all. Kamani, activities or actions or deeds, manasa, by the mind with the mind. So renouncing, sannyasa, giving up, renouncing, throwing down, having completely renounced. Aste, remains, he sits, it sits, resides. Sukham, in happiness, happily, pleasantly. Vasi, one who is controlled or having mastery, is a ruler, lord, or the person whose senses are under his control. So renouncing all actions with the mind, the embodied one sits happily as the ruler. So Navadware, in the place where there are 9 gates, these gates are 9. Pure, in the city. So Dehi, the embodied soul, the Atma or the embodied. So this term Dehi, the Deha is the body and Dehi is the possessor of the body. So in chapter 2, where Krishna is describing that we're not the body, that, hey, Arjuna, no one can be killed, the soul can't be killed, he doesn't use the word Atma. The word Atma is used later on in Bhagavad Gita. But in chapter 2, Krishna is using Deha to refer to the body, and Dehi for the possessor of the body, and Sarira and Sarira and Sari, I forget what the other term is, but anyway, he's using this Sarira to refer to the body, and Sarari, I think, to refer to the possessor of the body. And so not using Atma. So here Krishna is using the word Dehi again. So the embodied one sits happily as the ruler within the city of 9 gates. So the city of 9 gates is the 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, a mouth, the genital and the anus. So these are the 9 gates to the body. In other words, the holes within the body, within which things come in and also go out. And na, never or not, eva, certainly, at all, indeed, kavan, doing anything, acting, doing, making, ma, not, or nor, karayan, causing to be done, causing to act, causing action or causing deeds. So, literal translation, renouncing all actions with the mind, the embodied one sits happily as the ruler within the city of 9 gates, not acting at all, nor causing action. So when Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's translation, when the embodied living being controls his nature, and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done. So this is, so I mentioned, part of Sankhya. And Krishna brought up at the beginning of, Sankhya means analysis. So Krishna brought up at the beginning of this chapter 5, about Sankhya. So what did he say? Yeah, in text 5.4 he says Sankhya Yoga. So this first, second time actually Krishna brought up Sankhya in chapter 2, text 39, and then now he's bringing it up again, Sankhya Yoga. The analytical study of the material world, Sankhya. So this is analyzing the material world into its different elements. Usually there's 24 elements, to do with the senses and the sense objects and the earth, water, fire, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego, and the senses, the sense objects. These all add up to 24, and then the 25th element is the soul. But the soul, and this is described by Kapila, Lord Kapila, in the 3rd canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam at some length, that this, so this is known as Sankhya, or analysis. It's understanding, by the process of analysis, being able to understand that I'm not the body, that I'm spiritual in essence. Right? So this is one way to sort of attain it, considering the different aspects of the material nature and of the material body, and then being able to determine, well, I'm the spirit soul. I'm non-material. I've got nothing to do with this body. And so there's different ways we do that. Prabhupada teaches different meditations. Am I the hand? Am I the foot? Right, so on and so forth. And that's kind of a process of Sankhya, understanding or appreciating I'm different from this particular thing, right? But then from this understanding comes, well, I'm spiritual, I'm spirit soul, I'm not matter, so I'm actually not the doer. So ahankara means I am the doer, false ego. I am the doer. The sense that I am the body, and I'm the doer. I'm doing things, right? I'm the doer, right? But the spirit soul is actually aloof. He's actually got nothing to do with the material body. He's not. I shouldn't say he has nothing to do with it, but he's completely separate and apart from, distinct from the material body. So the analysis or example is given in a purport of Bhaktivedanta Swami's in the Bhagavad Gita, but it's also described at length in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in particular in the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, where there's an analogy given of how the body is like a chariot. And so the horses are the senses, right? The eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, and the and the reins is the mind, right? So you got the horses, which are the senses, and the senses are providing information to the mind, and the mind is giving direction to the senses. Everything that's coming in through the senses is going into the mind, and so this is like the reins, and then the intelligence is holding in the chariot, in the body of the chariot. The intelligence is the driver. The intelligence is the power of analysis and decision making and discriminating what's relevant and what's irrelevant, and so on, is the driver. And then you have the passenger, who's like, the passenger is just sitting there, being driven around in the chariot. So we're sitting in the chariot. So this is in this analogy, we're not the driver. The driver is the intelligence. We're the passenger. We're sitting in the chariot and being dragged around by the senses, right? It's like the horses are dragging us around. And depending on how strong our intelligence and our mind is, either if we've got no control over the senses, then we're just being dragged all over the place, just like crazy with no control, whatever. And, the more, so this is the process, like in this verse, controlling one's nature, right? So by engaging in the process of yoga and bhakti yoga, which includes as a key component or element sense control, controlling the senses. One who has uncontrolled senses can't engage in spiritual activity. They're just completely absorbed in sense gratification, gratifying the senses, doing what the senses want. So to be able to progress on the path of yoga, of linking up with the Supreme, and particularly in bhakti yoga, of linking up with Krishna in a mood of love. So in a mood of love, loving Krishna, then Krishna is Hrishikesha, the master of the senses. Then our desire becomes to satisfy and please his senses. And so serving and trying to satisfy our own senses is just a distraction from the path of bhakti yoga. It's anyway, so this Asankhya is this process of discrimination and determining that I'm not the soul, I'm completely separate and apart and distinct from the body and the material world, but somehow I'm a passenger in this chariot. So why don't I just get out of the chariot? Why don't I go, heck, I want out of here, man. Stop the chariot. I'm getting out. So, but what is it that we can't do that? It's like we're bound up in the chariot. It's not like we're just sort of sitting there and can just get up and walk around and get out. Actually, we're bound there. We're knotted there, right? And what are these knots? What's tying us in there? What's connecting us to this body? Because we're saying, well, you're not the body. Hey, man, you're not the body, right? But you're connected to it. And what are these connections? It's our desires. It's our past actions. It's our sense of false ego. It's our that I am the doer. It's our being covered by ignorance, ajnana. Jnana is knowledge. Ajnana is ignorance. Sometimes what is so ignorance. so ajnana. So ajnana actually means in front means lack of, don't have it, right? So jnana is knowledge. Ajnana is like, well, I ain't got knowledge, right? But this is called, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, generally always translates it as ignorance, which is the opposite of knowledge. Well, you have the state of knowledge, you got knowledge. An ignorant person doesn't have knowledge, right? So this is ajnana, lack of knowledge. And, so the lack of knowledge means that we don't understand I'm not the body. We think I am the body, right? So the Vaishnava, the devotee, a person in knowledge, Atma Tattva, he realizes, hey, okay, I got a body of 67 years old, I'm a bit of an old man, right? But realizes that I'm not the body. That's actually not me. That's not my real identity. That's not who I am. This body is going to die, in my case, sooner rather than later. Right? When you're young, it's just kind of nuts. I tell you, when you're young, 20s, or teenage years and 20s, you think you're never going to die. Like theoretically, you're going to die, but you don't think about it. But you actually are thinking, well, it's a long way off. Heck, 50 years, man. Average age of death, 80 years. I got 60 years to go. We're thinking it's like such a long time. So this is the nature of the illusion or the ignorance, is that, death can come at any moment, but 60 years is over in a flash. Before you know it, you're facing death. It's coming for you. It's racing up upon you. But even when you're in your old age and you're about to die, you're still not thinking, I'm going to die anytime soon. You're still thinking it's off in the future. But so we're knotted in this chariot by our sense of false ego that I am the body, that I am the doer, and it's my desires, right? My desires and my past action, which are all part of my subtle body. These are like knotting me into the chariot, and what knots me into the chariot even more than anything else is loving relationships with other people, right? If I'm in love with my wife or my husband or my girlfriend or whatever, then this is like knotting me. I'm like tied in there. It's like I'm attached. So in other words, attachment, right? So it's like, sometimes I've been saying that Krishna talks about attachment, and I'm just forgetting what the Sanskrit word for it is. Comes in town, nibbajite. Anyway, that was last week. We were talking about nibbajite, attachment. But anyway, so you become sangam, attached, right? Sangam, so attached. So a sangha, sometimes we talk about a sangha. This is like people who have a common goal, a common attachment, something binding them together, right? Common interest, right? So a sangha is like, sometimes you have, a sangha is like a group of devotees. Like we're a sangha, the disciples and students of Srila Prabhupada. We're a sangha, right? A community or association of devotees. We have this sort of kind of attachment. But anyway, so it's this attachment that binds us to this chariot. And another translation for it is clinging. We're like clinging to it. It's not that we're just attached. It's like we're like, grabbing hold of it. We're stuck to it like glue. We're convinced it's me. It's like we don't have any sense that it's not me. We're convinced it's me. So anyway, so how is it? So the soul, even though the soul is just a passenger sitting in the chariot, being like transported around, we're in the city of 9 gates, right? But we're just identifying ourselves as being that city of 9 gates. Well, then under that influence, we're thinking that I'm the doer. But in reality, the soul is not the doer. When I say we're thinking we're the doer, it's like under the influence of illusion or ignorance, I think I'm the doer. And because of my desires and actions and receiving the results of my past actions, I then am transported to other bodies. And it continues on, right? Whereas the devotee understands that I'm not this body, I'm spirit soul, that this body is acting under the laws of material nature, right? It's like I'm not in control of this body. Like I'm speaking here, and my tongue is moving, and my vocal cords are vibrating, and I'm opening and closing my mouth, and according to the tongue and the mouth and the vocal cords and the breath, then sounds are coming out of my mouth. Now the soul has nothing to do with that. The soul is non-material. So the body, under the workings of material nature and the modes of material nature, is doing all this work. Not me, the soul. Right? So the devotee, or one has a jnana, knowledge, and sankhya, understanding the analysis of the body and the soul, understands that the body's acting under the laws of material nature. Like Krishna says this in 3:27, the bewildered spirit soul under the influence of the three modes of material nature, thinks himself to be the doer of activities which are actually carried out by nature. And then in chapter 13, text 30, Krishna says, one who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. So I'm playing different temporary roles. Like right now, playing a male role, a business executive role, a somewhat of a spiritual teacher. I don't like to consider myself that, but anyway, here I am. I'm giving classes on Bhagavad Gita, so I suppose we can say I'm a teacher of Bhagavad Gita. And so I'm playing these different roles. And this is my swadharma according to my situation in the Varnashram system, and according to my education and upbringing, my association with my spiritual master, and wanting to pass on what I've learned and so on. And this is my swadharma, which is my own duty. Your duty is different than my duty. Your dharma is different from my dharma, according to your situation and position in life. And your swabhava, your nature. So what is this nature? It's this nature, it's a subtle body. And it's influenced by the gross physical body, but it's also we're bringing with our own mind from our previous life. Everybody has their own personality right from birth. Right? And they're all different, man. And so I'm appreciating that I'm just playing a temporary role. This is not me. This is a role I have now. Next life will be a different role. This is not my true nature. I'm not the body. My real nature, my real dharma, so I'm using this word dharma a lot, right? So there's kind of temporary natures, swadharma in this particular body, but my real dharma, my sanatana dharma, eternal dharma, is to render service to the Supreme Lord Krishna. This is real dharma. So sometimes people can get a bit caught up in what is dharma and what's my dharma and what does dharma mean, and of course I tend to wax on very thickly and at great length about dharma and doing the right thing and performing one's duty and responsibilities and and so on. But real dharma, your true essential nature, your sanatana dharma, is to render service to Krishna. Loving service, not service in the sense, hey, do your job, right? Not service like in the material world where, well, I'll pay you $20 and now you owe me an hour's worth of service. No. Bhakti is about pure loving service. So anyway, hope this is helpful. Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Haribo, Namaste, Krishna.